Connor McDavid, got him. He's the got him.
Right. What was this? What was this tournament a part of?
This is like the top hockey teams in the world, compete for like a week and a half. But Russia's not in it, Czechoslovakia is not in it. Those are two great teams.
They're not in it because they lost.
No, I think because Russia has been banned
Politics.
from everything.
Right.
Czechoslovakia, I'm not sure why.
I should know why. It was Boston.
It was in Boston?
Yeah.
Let me just see if there's more that we should see in this Hakdama.
Aren't usually a lot of like almost like thank yous and akarsatobs?
Yeah, there's a lot of personal stuff. But there's also some.
I would love to meet Rav Sharon. I would go. That yeshiva, I saw the name of Neve David or something.
Yeah.
And Rabbi Kabasa was one of his guys. And
Rabbi Kilbasa.
that's his name, Kabasa. So it's Moroccan name.
Okay. Okay. V'chein zikeni hakel yisbarach ladun laharot beveit hadin ha'artzi badatz beit Yosef b'nesiyuto shel gan uzenu v'nezer tifartenu marn Rabbeinu Avadja Yosef Shlita. That God has given me the ability to be part of the Beis Din and Paskin for this Beis Din of Rav Ovadja. Harishon Litzion V'rosh Moetzet Chachmei HaTorah. This is written about 30 years ago. Asher Omed Beperetz V'nilcham Ka'ari Biyad Rama U'Veresh Gali Neged Kolotam Hamrimim Yad B'Torat Moshe V'Holchim L'Rot B'Sadot Zarim U'Mekayimim Bazev Oivenu Pililim. We read this line yesterday. He says he is standing in the breach and fighting like a lion with a raised hand and an upraised head, and fighting against this milchemes mitzvah, against all those who would try to oppose our Torah. V'yitzliach lahachdir amok amok b'toda'at am Yisrael et chomer ha'yisur sheyesh litvo liyatzeg ha'tovei bevatei Mishpat, and he has fought ferociously to demonstrate to people how you should not go to the secular courts. And then we saw that he says, Baruch Hashem, he's been successful, and we've had even non-Jews come to the Beis Din. That's where we're up to.
Is that a good thing?
Yeah, it is. Yes, he says it is a good thing.
Oh.
As if a Gentile wishes to adjudicate according to Jewish law because he believes that the Beis Din is more fair than the secular court, then that's a Kiddush Hashem.
Rabbi, can you share the screen, please?
Yes, sorry. Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Because, I'm thinking about that juxtaposed to non-Jews not allowed to learn Torah.
Right.
It just seems like
Correct.
something that would be part
Correct.
of.
It's actually derived from the same pasuk, Mishpatim bal yida'um, that we are not allowed to inform the other nations. Lo asachen l'chol goy. God does not do the same for other nations. Umishpatim bal yida'um, and he does not notify them of his statutes. That teaches us that we're not supposed to teach Torah to a non-Jew. But another way of understanding it, according to our sages, that when mishpatim are bal yida'um, when statutes are against what should be known, lo asachen l'chol goy, God does not do that for other nations, meaning God will not deprive other nations of the opportunity to adjudicate their differences according to Torah law. Yeah. V'amru Razal, Amar Rabbi Yishmael Harotza Sheyach Kim Yasok B'dinei Maminis. Our sages do tell us in the Gemara that Rabbi Yishmael says if a person wishes to become wise, he should study financial law. She'ein lecha mikzoa b'Torah gadol mehem. There is no greater subject in the Torah. Shehem k'mayan hanovea, because they're like a constantly renewing wellspring. V'hatam shehim shilam l'mayan hanovea. Why is financial halacha compared to an overflowing wellspring? He says, just like with a wellspring, the further you dig into the well, you'll find even more and more fresh water. Kain b'dinei mamanis kechol asher ma'amikim bahem yoter magi'im la'amita shel Torah. With financial law, the deeper you dig, the more you'll be able to arrive at the truest elements of the Torah. Kichol mikra u'mikra hu din la'atzmo. Because as we've seen over the years, every case is unique, and every case requires a tremendous amount of analysis to determine all the different aspects of the law. Ve'eino doma l'din chavero, and no one scenario is exactly analogous to its fellow scenario. Uvechila katan mishtaneh hadin. So, and we see that the halacha can change on a dime just because of one small thing. V'lachein tzarich lahamik b'mayanot hatoharim shel Toratenu hakidosha kidei la'asuke shmaitza aliba dehilchata. And that's why it's really so important to dig deep into these matters and to really analyze them properly in order to come up with the final correct halachic position. V'ita b'gemara amar Rav Chisda mai dichtiv ohev Hashem sharei Tzion mikol mishkanot Yaakov. The Gemara in Brachos says, what is the meaning of the pasuk in Tehillim that says that Hashem loves the gates of Zion from all of the other dwelling places of Jacob? What does that mean? Ohev Hashem sha'arim hamitzuyanim bahalacha yoter mibate kinesiot mibate midrasha. This is something that is not well emphasized in some yeshivas. But the Gemara says that Hashem loves those gates that are mitzuyanim, that are distinguished in halacha, more than all of the synagogues and the batei medrash. Meaning that it means those who analyze Torah in order to arrive at the final bottom line in halacha are superior to all of the other types of Torah study. So like learning Gemara, stam, without coming to the bottom line in halacha, is inferior to those who study Gemara in order to know how to arrive at the final psak. V'hainu da'amar Rabbi Chia bar Ami mishmei de'ula miyom shechar v'beis hamikdash ein lo la'kadosh baruch hu be'olamu ela arba amot shel halacha. And the Gemara also says that famous line that from the day the temple was destroyed, God's only care is the 4 cubits of halacha, like the measuring stick of halacha. So that essentially the Gemara says, all of the other studies are good. You can study the pilpul, you can do really deep analytics into a sugya in Gemara. You can also, study machshava and musar and all of and Tanakh. They're all fantastic, but the most important thing is arriving at halachic truths. Okay, v'kasav b'drasha sachasam sofer the arba amot shel halacha halohema arba'a devarim shakadosh baruch hu ohavan. What does that phrase mean? The 4 cubits of halacha. It refers to the 4 things that Hashem loves: lilmod, ulalamed, lishmor, v'la'asot. The 4 things, the 4 amos, he says, are to learn, to teach, to observe, and to do. Lishmor is to make sure you don't do the wrong thing, and to do the positive thing. Shehem ha'ikar, that's the main thing, to be able to learn and teach so that we know what to do. V'lachein korei otam amot b'lashon em lamikra. So the word amot here means like the main categories. Shezot Torah ha'adam lilmod u'lamed lishmor v'lasot. That's really man's primary focus. It should be to learn, to teach, so that he can know to do both the negative and positive mitzvot. Uvederech zeh piresh ma'amar chazal arba'a amot shel adam konot lo deloleti li insuye. He says, the Gemara also says that the 4 amos of Torah study cause a person to avoid conflicts. Now, how does that happen? Because if anything, sometimes when guys get into the base medrash, they get into ferocious debates. So how does the 4 cubits of Torah study cause a person to avoid conflicts? That if a person's study is focused with the final objective at arriving at correct practice. Kona lo b'chol makom afilu be'et shecharv beis hamikdash b'chol makom mugashu muktar lishmi tiknu rabbanan delo leisi li'insuye milchemes yetzer hara. Then a person will be able to acquire at all places and at all times, even after the temple was destroyed, in every place every place will be sanctified for Hashem. And the rabbis made a remedy so that people will not fight or have conflicts with the Yetzer Hara. That's what it means. Okay, so he's using Agadic interpretation. It is only through the deep analysis of back and forth study until we arrive at the correct halachic practice that we achieve true peace. Hashem ish milchama. The pasuk in the Torah that we say in Az Yashir says that God is a man of war. And the Zohar in that comments, Hacha it li istakala. Here we have to look at this carefully. Al kain ye omer b'sefer milchamot Hashem. Therefore, it is said in the book of the wars of God, which is a pasuk in Parshas Chukas, B'chi sefer milchamot Hashem in who? He says, is there such a thing as the book of the wars of God? Elahachi it aru chavraya kol man de'agach kirva de'oraita zachi la'aska shalma b'sof miluye. But what it means is that anyone who engages in the war of Torah study will eventually emerge in peace. Kol kirvin da'alma ketata v'charbana v'chol kirvin de'oraita shalma v'rachemuta. That all wars that exist in the world result in devastation, but the wars of Torah result in love and friendship. Hadahu dichtiv al kein ye omer b'sefer milchamot Hashem et vahev b'sufo. That's why the pasuk says that it is written in the book of the wars of the Lord that vahev, which comes from the word ahava, is what results at the end. Klomar ahava b'sofa, delet lecha ahava v'shalma bar mihai. That there is no kind of war that takes place in the world that results in peace, except for the war of Torah study.
Rabbi, the whole Shiva world just focus on Gemara and nothing else. How did it get into that direction when halacha, bottom line, is what we need for the generations to continue that we understand? Right? It's become
How did it happen?
post-Holocaust, or was it?
No. This was, I think, well before the Holocaust. This really was a phenomenon that was already being debated in the times of the Maharal, who lives in the 1500s. So the Maharal was also very concerned that people were becoming more analytical in their study of the Talmud instead of trying to get to the halachic bottom line. And I don't know how it evolved that way, but there have been breakoffs, but in the Litvish way of the yeshivas has been more to not focus on the halachic bottom line, but to teach young men how to become analytical in their way of thinking in general. And arguably, certainly from the Sephardi perspective, that's incorrect. From the Hasidic perspective, it's incorrect. Every community has its own.
Places like Blazin and Telz and Europe, all Panovich are all traditionally just analytics, right?
Yeah.
Just holistic.
Yeah.
Without doing Tanakh, without doing.
Oh, Tanakh for sure not, because Tanakh was viewed as, if you learn Tanakh, you're a maskil. That started in the 19th century. That there was this de-emphasis. Yeah.
So that just became because the masculine.
Yeah.
Kind of weird. You're studying something with no end, like the end.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a foundation to learn how to learn.
Right, to learn how to learn is fine,
but if that's all.
The bottom line is to understand Torah and give suck and how do you live your life, like
Yeah.
like.
I think that what happened is that there was there were two levels of yeshiva curriculum. The lower level of yeshiva curriculum was to familiarize young men in the cadence and flow of Talmud Bavli. And then the goal was to eventually advance to a higher level of study where you would study not only the Talmud Bavli, but the Rishonim, the Achronim, and the Shulchan Aruch. And for whatever reason, that never, for many boys that went to yeshiva only for a few years and never went beyond that, that part never materialized. And as a result, all we see among many of the yeshivas is that sometimes a person could be in yeshiva for many years and never advances beyond that point of study. So really what's supposed to happen is that you're supposed to evolve as you get older and study subjects in a way that you didn't study them when you were a kid. It's true like that about all things. Our reading tastes, our literature tastes change over the course of a lifetime, and that's what's supposed to happen in the way that we study Torah as well. The way that we study Torah is supposed to evolve. And as we become older men, we're supposed to try and get to the bottom line, because if we don't do it now, we're never going to do it, we're never going to know halacha. So we've got to be able to do that, at some point. Okay.
Why didn't, it seems like after the Ramchal, that Musar became something more on the plate too. Why is that not given the emphasis that it probably should be given?
Musar?
Yeah.
What is, I don't really see how that's so directly associated with the Ramchal. The Ramchal was more a mystic than anything else.
But Musar and Sharm, isn't that sort of the golden saper of Musar?
It's funny that you say that because I think certain yeshivas in the 18th and 19th centuries may have adopted Mesilas Yesharim as their golden Musar sefer, but the Ramchal himself that was the only book that he wrote that was non-mystical in nature. He was a mystic. He wrote Kabbalistic works. In a certain respect, it's very basic mysticism, but it's mysticism nonetheless. And then there's so many other works that were popularized by the Musar movement of the 19th century. Rabbi Yisrael Salanter, the Or Yisrael, who popularized so many other.
I just think a well-rounded of everything as a proper method of learning.
Yeah, there's a Gemara that says that a person should really divide his day into 3 parts.
Rambam, is there Rambam say that?
Yeah, it's based on a Gemara that you're supposed to do Shlish Mikra, Shlish Mishnah, and Shlish Halacha, I think is what it says. A third of Tanakh, a third of Mishnah, and a third of Halacha. But then there's one opinion in the Gemara that says if you learn Talmud Bavli, you get all 3 in that.
Well, the truth is, if you do learn it, you have to learn all the psukim that they're quoting.
That's right.
How are you going to know?
That's right. That's
they
right.
take it under the premise that you already know that, and that you're when you don't know any of the psukim.
It's funny because sometimes the only way yeshiva bachrim know any Tanakh is through the study of Gemara, which is a little strange. Hey, there's a Gemara in Pesachim where it's a Beferisha Gemara in Pesachim, and it turns out that thing that they quoted from Pesachim is really a pasuk in Koheles.
Did the Baltimore, did they tell you to learn everything during that time of Ruderman and Weinberg? It was just strictly Steig.
And then there were chaburas, like every once in a while, once a week you'd hear a Musar Shmuz from the Rosh Hashiva. And I think there might have been like 15 minutes of Musar study right after Mincha or right before Mincha. I don't remember anymore. Yeah. Okay, anyway. Uvayalkud Yeshai al psukim elu v'samti kad kod shimshotayach usha'arayach la'avnei ekdach v'chol givulech la'avnei chefetz v'chol banayach limudei Hashem v'rav shalom banayach. So it's a pasuk in Yeshaya that says that I don't even remember how to translate the first part of the pasuk, but I will convert all of your gates into fine marble and all of your children will be students of Hashem, and there will be abundance of peace among your children. Darshu sham al tikrei banayich ela banayich gadol hashalom shenitan lelomdei Torah. That we see that people who are your children are your builders, and they create peace through their Torah study. V'chein amar Rabbi Elazar amar Rabbi Chanina talmidei chachamim marbim shalom ba'olam. That Torah scholars increase peace in the world. And according to Rav Shraga's perspective, it's through arriving at the Psak Halacha. In the future world, there will be pervasive peace throughout creation. As it says in Yeshaya, that the wolf will lie down with the sheep, and the leopard will lie down with the goat, and the calf and the kfir, which is the young lion, will all frolic together. And similarly, our sages say on that pasuk that we quoted above, that all of your borders will be converted into precious stones. Amar Rebbe Binyamin Asidin Techume Yerushalayim Liot Maleim Avonim Tovos Umargolios. That in the future, the borders of Yerushalayim will be filled with precious stones and gems, and pearls. And all of Israel will come and take whatever they need from those precious gems. Yisrael ba'olam hazeh mitachamim ba'avanim uvitzurarot, aval la'atid lavo mitachamim ba'avanim tovot umargoliot. He says, in this world, the Jewish people, mitachamim, I'm not sure what that word comes from, they engage in stones and pebbles, but in the future they'll engage in precious jewels and pearls. Okay, so that means that it'll be a glorious future. Amar Rebbe Levi atidin techume Yerushalayim liot maleim avanim tovos umargolios lefi sheba'olam hazeh adam chayv lechaveru omer lo nelech nidon eitzel adayan. He says, what does it mean that in the future Yerushalayim will be filled with precious gems? He says what it really means is that in this world, when a person owes his friend money, he says, come, let's go to a Beis Din. And sometimes the Beis Din adjudication will result in making shalom, and sometimes it will fail. Sometimes they'll leave and they'll still hate each other. Leis tartin afyan nafki martzian. He says, because sometimes leis tartin apyan nafki martzayan. He says, but if there are not two different views, then they leave appeased. But in the future, when two people have a dispute, they say, let's go to consult Mashiach, who's convening in Jerusalem. So he says, two people will come to Jerusalem, and if there's any kind of conflict over financial debt, they'll come to the borders of Jerusalem. They'll find such precious gems and stones that the alleged debtor will say to the creditor, do I owe you more than this? Meaning that there'll be such abundant wealth that people will be moichel each other for their financial debts because they don't need the money. And the creditor will say to the debtor when they come to Yerushalayim and they see all of this wealth, yeah, I'll just take some of the precious gems from the borders of Jerusalem, and I don't need it. We don't need to argue anymore. And that's why the pasuk says that God will place your borders as a source of peace. Now, what this means exactly, it's hard to know. But the Medrash is describing that in the Messianic age, there will be such abundant wealth that people won't be squabbling anymore over financial issues. Like as we advance towards a Messianic period, people won't need to work, people won't need to save money because there'll be such abundant wealth that no one will care anymore. And we're actually seeing some semblance of that. We're in a basic, we live in a pre-messianic world, but we still have a long way to go. B'chavod uv'mora. Okay, so anyway, now he's going to his personal dedications about all of the people who came before him. And let's see. Okay, my mother. Okay. My yeshiva, Naveh David. Begivat Hatzafartit B'Yerushalayim. It's in French Hill, apparently, this yeshiva. That engage in Choshen Mishpat halacha, and to the Avrechim HaYikarim, the lovely young men who learn in the yeshiva. Okay. I thank all of the donors to the yeshiva. I owe a tremendous debt to the Gabbai of our shul, where I give shiurim, Beit HaKnesset Naveh David in Givat Safartit in French Hill, and the Beit HaKnesset Beit Yaakov in Piskat Zev, and the Beit HaKnesset Tiferet Yerushalayim B'Shchunat HaBukharim. You know, where is the Bukhari neighbor?
Just next to it, it's in Gula.
As in Gula? Yeah,
You're
okay.
in Key Park Shabbat, you walk down 4 blocks, it's right there's the Bukharian section.
Oh, okay. So he basically hangs out in these 3 shuls and gives shiurim there, or was at least. He says it's already been 10 years that we have a shir every B'chol Leil Shishi, every Friday night. That we have professionals, we have judges, psychologists, engineers, army officers, and also many other people. We have an in-depth Mishnah shir, and every week, muzmanim rabbanim gedolei haTorah la'or halavavos ad chatzos halayla. We have great rabbis who come and lecture and arouse us to great inspiration until midnight on these long Friday nights. Ein b'leilot hachoref, ein b'leilot hakayetz, both in the winter and in the summer. And then at chatzos, mekonin v'orchim tikun chatzos lahapil tachnunim al golus hashchina, the golus Yisrael v'yoshvim la'aretz. And then we do tikun chatzos at midnight, and then we open up the Aron and we say Tehillim, and V'rabim Nosh, and many people have been saved by these prayers, and we do this all very, very privately in one of these synagogues.
Intense.
Yeah, it is pretty intense. Okay.
Friday night.
Okay, I think we're done. V'nizkech lanu yachad lirot et beit habechira v'az nashir et hashira yachad kol bnei hagvira yisrael nashab achrim tzlat olamim amen. He says, but we all see the third temple. May we all sing together songs of praise to Hashem, and may Israel be saved eternally. And Ko Divrei HaMachaber Baruch Shraga. Okay, so we're ready to start. Okay, and we'll start that in Mirz Hashem on Monday, I guess, right? Okay, so let me wish you all a Shabbat Shalom, a good Shabbos.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Monday.
Shabbos, everybody.
Hopefully, Sunday morning Cafe Shalom, 9:30 a.m. for those who can make it. We'd love for you all to be there or be square.